the Christmas season. Just because we are, we needed some time off as well, and I know everybody was busy around the time, so now we're back at it again, and we want to do these monthly. We always get good feedback from everybody. Some of you give us ideas of some topics that you would love us to cover, and I encourage you again to share that with us today after the meeting or during the meeting or at any time. So with me, I have Caitlin Rice on the call here. She's with the Edge team, so she's our content strategist. So she handles a lot of our the writing project, the messaging, and video is kind of like she doesn't really do video yet, but she does know about the strategy behind video because let's face it, video is just another form of content. Okay, and then welcome, Katie. And then we have Stuart Rees. Stuart he's a photographer and a videographer that is recently landed in Lacombe. Stuart, is that correct?
That's correct. From South Africa.
Yeah, cool.
Happy to be here, though.
Yeah, you're a great addition to the community already. We have used Stuart for several projects, and he's been fantastic. So he's going to share some of his knowledge with us this afternoon. So we're very excited about that. And yeah, that's all I have as far as announcements go. So please use the chat box. Some of you already are using it. Katie will keep an eye on that. And then if we need to interrupt anybody that's speaking, by all means, either unmute yourself or type something in the chat box, because we want to make this as valuable for you as possible. You all have your own situation that you're dealing with, so we really want to answer your questions. So we're going to have about a presentation portion of roughly 30 minutes. And then after that, of course, we'll stay on for additional questions that you may have. So with that, I'm just going to ask Katie to maybe just get going, unless somebody has a thought or a comment. Yeah. So what are we talking about today? I think the big problem that we're kind of tackling, and I call it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem, but it's an issue that a lot of content creators, and every business is a content creator to a certain extent these days, is that video is becoming more and more popular, right? Like we like to consume video more so than reading things overall. And like as a small business owner, as a solopreneur, or even as part of a large team, how do you actually do this in such a way that is actually effective, right? And we really want to focus on content or video content that you can create yourself. But there's also, of course, instances that you need to hire somebody like Stuart to help you with this as well. But in essence, like some of these video tips and tricks that we're going to share, you can really apply them to your own situation. So that's really why we're doing this, and we got great response of people that are actually interested in. So some of you must be, either not really knowing where to start, or just want to learn more how to actually do it. And the best way to learn a video, Stuart, correct me if I'm wrong, is just getting started, right?
That's it. You need to do something so that you can improve on that something.
Exactly, right? So, all right. Yeah, so like an interesting stat, according to this website, 91% of people, consumers, businesses, anybody that you're interacting with wants to see more online video content from brands, which is staggering, really. But that's kind of the trend that you of course see on some of the social media platforms. We're very video oriented these days, where a lot of small businesses, maybe including ourselves, are still kind of stuck maybe in the content writing and the graphics, which is an important area as well. It's never going to go away. It all goes hand in hand. But when it comes down for people to really quickly find out how to do something or learn about us as a person or as a company, video is definitely a preferred platform. So that's why we feel that this is timely and important to share this information with you. Yeah, so Katie, you want to just maybe explain why this trend is happening? It's nothing new. It has been happening for the last, I'd say, 5 or even longer years, but recently it's really been front and center. So you want to explain a few benefits or like why this is happening?
Yeah, definitely. So there are several reasons. There's probably even more beyond what we have listed, but these are some of the main reasons why content is so in demand by people that are visiting your websites, coming across your social media platforms. First reason is very attention grabbing. That kind of movement is kind of going to grab their attention as soon as they see it. You can kind of get scientific and kind of go back to like human nature, where kind of as a reflex, where you're kind of looking for those movements. It's kind of a safety reflex, but now it's kind of been to develop. So video is kind of grabbing our attention. It's also more easier to consume and entertaining. Sometimes those big blocks of text are hard to kind of digest and get through. It's also often time consuming for your potential customers to kind of get through. So that those quick little videos are just easier for them to kind of get information on you or what you have to offer, your products or services. And then it's often more engaging. So it's almost like having a conversation with someone. So they kind of feel like they're getting to know your brand a little bit better through video. And it's also very versatile. So you can have videos on your background of your business, new products or services you offer, product demos, how-to tutorials, just to provide valuable information for those people that are coming across your video to create an initial connection and a sense of trust with them.
You maybe should, when you're done there, are you done?
Oh, yeah.
So it's also very accessible. You can pretty much have video anywhere on your website, your social media. People are able to view it whether on the computer, on their smartphones. And it's also very shareable. Videos often have links that you can share with your friends, or if you're on social media, you can share the post directly with someone. And it's you're very often able to kind of have a better spread of that information.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for sharing that information. So this is kind of like the 7 areas of marketing that we have identified and work with, and this is nothing new, of course. So where does video fit in this strategy? It fits in a lot of different places. Like videos on your website are very popular now for people to get a quick overview of what you're about and if you're a good fit for them. The content, delivery and all the other products information that you send out video can be part of that as well. So it's as social media, of course. Every time we put something on social media in a video format, it gets way more engagement than anything else. I see a few social media gurus here on the call, so you can probably identify with that. Yeah, Kaden, you're smiling, so you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, like that's just we all know this, but then the practicality of how we're actually going to do this, right? And that's where Stuart comes in here to kind of explain that to us. So we can actually, you've used paid online advertising to promote certain video content and have really great success with that as well. You can make it part of your email marketing. You can use that video that you produce, just like any other piece of content. You can use and reuse that several times, and that's oftentimes the best strategy, right? To build something that is good and solid, and then pick it apart and actually distribute it through the different channels. So you're not always recreating that content all the time. Yeah, so like what you see, if you go to a search engine such as Google, video content gets very high priority in a lot of cases. In a lot of cases now you see actually maybe 3 videos right on the top, depending on what you're searching for. But especially if you search any how-to or any particular key phrase that you're looking for, videos are actually ending up on top in a lot of cases now, and that's intentional because Google knows that 91% of the people want to see more videos, so that's what they serve the customers. So that's why that's happening. So again, that's important for you as a business. If you can create some videos that are relevant for the keywords, and you would actually be listed on the top of that page, that's always an advantage. Of course, you'll get more clicks, more traffic to your website. The other benefit of video, of course, gives you some personality, right? People don't always know exactly who's behind the company or what your culture is, what the flavor of business is, even you as a person. once you break that down and actually give people a glimpse of what it would be like to work with you, and they can either like you or don't like you, or but at least very least they have a opinion about you, and that makes it easier for people to approach you. And realtors, for example, have done this for years already, put their photos on everything. So as soon as you see the person or you phone the person, you go like, hey, yeah, that's Stuart, or that's Peter, right? It already feels comfortable. So that's really an important benefit of video as well that you can use. Increase brand awareness. You can, you really, again, build on your brand and what you stand for. And again, it's important to have a plan, and Stuart will kind of be talking about that a little bit more detailed, what that all entails. But if you do this properly, you can be yourself, and that's really what people are looking for. They're looking for something that's real. They're looking for the real you. And video it's really hard to hide your personality or even your voice or how you interact with people, right? So that's really, people really like that transparency. It can also be fairly cost effective, although it depends on what you're producing. If this is just a quick thing on, like, a new product comes in your store, you make a quick video. You can't pay a video production company to come in and shoot that video necessarily, right? But there's other instances that your video you do for a safety program or anything else you're doing that has a shelf life of maybe like 2 or 3 years. Then of course it makes more sense to produce it a bit more professional. So those options are available as well. So with that, like, we have, we've asked Stuart to speak on a few of these things. So, Stuart, I'm just gonna maybe have you introduce the topic or the things that you want to talk about, and give us a brief overview of what you're going to talk about, and then we dive a little deeper in all these 7 different points.
Cool. Hey guys, and Peter, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I've been watching these webinars since I've moved here, and I appreciate the value that you give to us. So I'm basically going to be speaking about my approach to video and giving you guys a couple of practical tips on how you can start today just to improve little things to make your video look just slightly more professional by doing it yourself. And I think it all begins with planning with anything. Like you've got to decide what is the purpose of your video, what are you trying to achieve, and then we're going to break it down from there and basically implement that to create the video. Yeah, so shall we dive straight in, Peter? Yeah.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, you guys, feel free to interrupt me, feel free to ask questions. I'm going to try and go through it as quickly as possible to respect your time. So beginning with like defining the purpose of your video, and you'll notice on social media, on YouTube or websites, videos will either entertain you, they'll inspire you, or they're there to educate you. And I think for us as business owners, the education part is probably the most important. You want to tell people about a special you're running. You want to tell people how to use your product or why your product will be beneficial to them. So define the purpose of the video that you want to make. Use the tools that you already have. So everyone has a cell phone, and it is good enough to use for a video. There's a couple of things you can do to make your video slightly more professional, but there's no excuse to not start like today. And I'll get back to the tips on using a cell phone shortly, but research what your competitors are doing. I'm not saying let's copy what competitors are doing, but just kind of look at what they're doing and limit it to just maybe 1 or 2 and see where you can get inspiration from it. Why did this video get 400,000 views? Why did this one get 4 views? And then obviously try find that middle ground that'll work for you. Peter already touched on this, that repurpose what you already have. So if you decide, okay, today I would like to make a video, very well, make a video, but it's like, what am I going to make a video on? Well, look at something that you've already done. So maybe a Facebook post that you made a couple of weeks ago that did really well. You wrote the script out for it, and um, take that particular post and recreate it, repurpose it, but this time film something about the product or the service and speak, maybe do a talking head and speak about it, as opposed to just typing out the post on like you would on a social media post. And that brings me to the last point. Apologies if I'm going too quickly here, but it is a very unnatural thing to sit and talk to a camera, and it takes practice, but it is a skill that everyone can learn. So my advice here is to script what you want to say. Write it out exactly the way you want to say it, and go over it a couple of times, and film yourself doing it. Watch it back and see how many times you and you and you kind of look down and feel awkward, and be okay with that, because it's 100% normal. Like hardly anyone is a pro straight off the bat. But yeah, you will get better at it.
Yeah, well, thanks for bringing that up again about the content, reusing the content, because that's really important. Because the biggest hurdle that we see with our clients is to actually get started with something like this, right? So besides the next social media post, you can also look at content you already have made, like maybe you have a blog or you have other material that you've made in the past in written format. Why don't you, like, especially if it's been a popular post or a popular piece of content, why not take that piece of content, instead of reinventing the whole thing, just take that same content and, like Stuart said, build it into a video, and then you have your first piece of content. Or if it's a good enough piece, you can actually chop it up in different topics as well, right? Like, just a quick question, Stuart, like how long should these videos be? For example, if I want to put something on my LinkedIn profile, well, what's roughly, you're probably going to test it on later.
Short.
What's a good rule?
As short as possible, definitely. Always, I would say 25 to 30 seconds. Because I mean, when people open up their social media feeds, they don't want to spend their 10 allocated minutes watching a video about one of us talking about something, and they kind of want to just get the gist of it. So rule of thumb is shorter is better. There is, sorry, with me saying that, there is a time and a place for a longer video, like a how-to video that's sort of on your website or on your YouTube channel, where it's like, it's gonna be 5 to 10 minutes, maybe even longer. But for most things, shorter is better.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thanks for clarifying that.
Any questions? Please feel free to interrupt if you do have a question. Moving on to, again, planning, and that comes down to where will your video be viewed? And we almost touched on this now. Like, if it's going to be a social media video, you're announcing to your followers that you've got new product in, or you've got a special or something coming up. It's important to decide how long that video is going to be. Again, 25 to 30 seconds max. And then orientation of your device. For social media, it's going to be viewed on a cell phone, like 9 times out of 10. So film it portrait. If it's going to be something for your website or YouTube, film it landscape. Because obviously when you watch a landscape video on a small screen, you want to take up as much real estate on the screen as possible. And then again, with social, well, you've got to allocate your time and your resources wisely. So if it's going to be a social media video, don't spend 2 hours or 3 hours making a video that's only going to be watched for a couple of seconds, and then next week it's probably irrelevant. Rather spend that time, that effort, those resources on a video that's going to go on your website or on YouTube, where it's going to be relevant for as long as you sell that product. So yeah, bear that in mind as well. Keep it short. And then lastly, just assume that the viewer knows nothing. And I think it's a common trap that everyone falls into, is when you're telling a story or explaining something to someone, you generally leave out details, because in your head you've got the whole picture. Whereas someone that's watching it, or a video, or listening to your story for the first time, doesn't have those details. So just bear that in mind, that you have to try and assume that the viewer knows nothing and you're trying to educate them as much as you can.
Sorry, just a question in the chat. Is there an app that will change the video orientation from vertical or horizontal or vice versa, just because they're posting to Instagram and Facebook at the same time?
No, well, we'll put it this way. If you're filming vertically, your actual video footage is going to be narrow and long, all right? And if you're filming horizontally, it's obviously going to be wide. So essentially, if you use software to do that, you're going to take a video that's filmed vertically, like sideways, and the viewer is going to be seeing it that way. You can't stretch pixels out, not that I'm aware of. So you'll have to decide if you are going to do Facebook and Instagram simultaneously with the same video. I'd probably opt to go with vertical, because I think that Facebook would favor the vertical format.
And yeah, just to kind of add on to that, I find often if you are going to be posting a video, specifically a reel to Instagram, it's easier to post it right through the app, do the edits through the Instagram app versus the Meta Business Suite, just because you have more capabilities for editing it. When you're uploading a reel, let's say that has a landscape or horizontal orientation, they do have the ability to kind of reformat it for a reel, which is vertical. What it basically does, it basically zooms in on the video instead. So there's a chance that it could get cut off, some of the video. But I just recommend, if you are posting, say, a reel, do it directly through the Instagram app. It's a little bit easier to make edits.
What you could do in that case as well is try and keep your subject in the middle of the frame, so that when it does kind of blow it out into portrait, your subject is still kind of in frame.
So
Cool. I hope
another,
that answers your
an
question.
additional question about video editing software. Like, do you have any recommendations for like a simple video editor? I'm not sure if it would change the orientation, but generally speaking, if something comes from your phone, you want to add any effects or you want to edit it. Like, do you have any, like, I know there's really expensive programs, so you probably have a whole whack of those, but for the average, small business owner, entrepreneur, like, do you have any recommendations what they could use?
Yeah, so I use an app called Video Leap, which it's a paid app, but it's very powerful. And I can highly recommend it. There are some free ones out there if you search on your app stores. And then for computer, I use a Mac, and I edit in a program called Final Cut Pro. But if you own a Mac, you'll get iMovie, which is it's like a lighter version of Final Cut, which works perfectly. And I'm sure that Windows, if I'm not mistaken, it's Windows Movie Maker. I'm sure it would be free with the Windows Suite. But if you are going to make a video for social media, I would do what Katie says, edit it in the Reel Maker on the actual social media app. And then I actually think these days most phones have some form of edit function once you've recorded a video. That's obviously speaking mobile, particularly filming with your phone. If you're filming with a camera, you want to be editing on your computer, then you have to choose Final Cut Pro or Premiere, Adobe Premiere. If you're using Windows, I suppose you could use Adobe Premiere on Mac as well. But those are the best ones, and unfortunately, you have to pay for those.
Yeah, so in the chat box, there's a few other people that are sharing what the tools that they're using. So pay attention to that. Thanks for sharing that, Caden and Lana. Canva actually has some tools built in as well, so that's practically free, right, or very low cost. So again, some good advice there. So thanks for sharing that. Mm-hmm.
And Canva has like two versions, a pro version and, like you say, like the free version. So maybe start there. Moving on to lighting, and the general like rule of thumb is the more light you have, the better. If you can bring the light in from the front, obviously in front of your subject, that's going to make it easier for people to see your subject, whether it's you or a product or service of sort. I'm going to speak mainly about using the sun, the like natural light. You can buy studio lights, and they're relatively inexpensive and accessible these days. For $50 to $100, you can get 2 softbox lights on Amazon, and then you could move them around whatever room or environment you're in and light up anything. But if we're just using a large window, it can work fine. Just be aware of the time of day that you're shooting. In the morning or the evening, generally the light is a bit softer, whereas in the middle of the day, that's where the sun is pouring straight in, it's a hard light and it creates hard shadows. So just be aware of when you're filming. If it's a cloudy day, clouds is like your friend. We call it nature's soft box because it diffuses the light. So then you can film pretty much any time of the day, and the light will be soft on whatever, whether it's your face or like your product. If you are doing a talking head video, like this is a talking head, by the way, we're just talking about something, be aware that you don't want the light to be directly above your head, shining down on you, because what it does is it creates weird shadows, raccoon eyes, actually, raccoon eyes, like your eye sockets will have black marks underneath your nose, will be like underneath your chin, will be these weird shadows. So all you got to do is just step away from the light, and this works for photos as well. Never stand directly underneath the light. If it's the light in your office or your lounge or whatever the case is, just move and imagine a 45-degree line, and that light will naturally spill over your face and sort of illuminate everything without any strange shadows. Okay, this is one of my favorite things to be aware of, or one of the most important things to be aware of, is your framing and the angle of your camera. And generally what happens, I'm going to use my phone again as the example. If you want to take a photo of something, you pick up your phone and you go like this, bang, I'm taking a photo. The problem with this is your camera is at an angle straight off the bat. So any vertical lines are going to be distorted, and it comes across as a little amateurish. Whereas if you watch anything online or anything done sort of professionally, whether it's a series or watching the news or the sport, the camera is always dead straight. And what that is so that when you're looking at something, there's no distraction in the background. So be very aware of your camera when you're taking photos or video. A little tip that you could do is, because generally when you take a photo, here's your lens, your camera tends to lean forward. If you turn your phone upside down like that, it's very hard to lean your camera forward unless you're being intentional. So take your phone upside down, and you'll see your phone or your video upside down, and your phone will automatically flip it around in post. Be aware of what's in your frame as well. So if you've got, let's say you're filming in your office, and behind you, you've got a printer and a cable hanging down, and you've got an old lunchbox and everything, just declutter the shot as much as you can. Because anything that's distracting in the background is distracting from what you're talking about or what you're trying to portray to the viewer. When you're doing a talking head, again, always be aware that you're looking at the camera, and this comes back to that thing of practicing and getting comfortable with it, because it's very natural to look at yourself in the camera. And I'm like, even doing it now, I'm watching some of you guys and my eyes are moving all around you. But if I want to talk directly to the viewer, I have to look directly into the camera the whole time. So yeah, just be aware of that. And then when you are filming, try bring your camera lens to your eye level, so that your camera is not sort of facing up at you, and you're not like looking up, the viewer's not looking up into your nose, and vice versa, like looking down on you. So bring that camera sort of to that level. And yeah, that's kind of my advice on camera angles.
So just a quick, in addition to that, like for the background, right? Like if you have a choice, like if you're in your own office, you can kind of rearrange some things. Like what would your recommendations be for like a background? Like if you can kind of stage it, do you have any recommendations? Of course, if you're out in your office or you're out and about, you can't really choose the background, or can you?
I would say go for the least cluttered look as possible. So if you are outside and there's a very busy street behind you, there's lots of movement, there's rubbish bins here, there's stop signs here, and the ones coming from the side of your head here, then I would say avoid that. Try and look for something that's got a cleaner sort of background. If you're going to be filming in the same place over and over, then build yourself a set that looks good. If you're like educating people and you want to sort of portray like your books and sit behind a bookcase or build a set that would work for you. That's what I would say.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Another quick thing is just be aware of where you are in the frame as well. So as a rule of thumb, you want 4 fingers above your head to the top of the frame so that your eyes are naturally, if you are naturally on the top third of the frame. If you had to imagine your camera frame like this, and you imagine 2 lines in between, so you've got 3/3. You always want your eyes just on that top line. So 4 fingers will probably be a safe ground for you. Just don't be too high because that's called a haircut. You don't want that either, and you don't want to be like too low so that there's so much negative space above you that, yeah, just be aware of that. Moving on to production again is be aware of your audio. Bad audio can be more distracting than bad video. Like if you can hear what's going on and the footage is a bit shaky, that's okay. You can still kind of make out what it is, but bad audio just makes you want to turn it off. You can invest in a microphone if you want to. They're also relatively inexpensive. A little lapel microphone that you can clip onto your shirt and plug directly into your phone, or if you're using a camera, you can plug it directly into your camera. It's basically a microphone with a cable and a little mini jack, 8-inch jack on the other side. And then you could just use the voice recorder on your phone, or if you're going straight into your camera, it will automatically use that as the audio input. If you can't have a microphone, like avoid a large room with like a nasty echo. And that's like generally, let's say like a factory, or a room with large glass windows or concrete floors. You could tell straight away when you walk into a room that there's an echo, and that gets amplified when you record it and someone's trying to listen back. It gets a bit distracting. So if you can, avoid that, and then also like avoid a room that's super loud and distracting. Like if you're in an office and everyone's taking phone calls constantly, try and find a place where it's slightly more quiet, so that again your voice, what you're trying to say and portray, is the main subject. There's no distractions.
So Stuart, like if I have an office that's fairly straightforward, like a desk, maybe a hardwood floor or vinyl floor, glass walls, like what are some practical things that I could do to dampen some of that sound? Do I have to invest in sound panels, or is there some other tricks that you can recommend?
So sound will always bounce off a flat surface. It's because sound is a wave that's moving, and it'll hit that surface and it'll bounce back that way. And if there's nothing stopping that sound wave, it's going to bounce continuously back and forth. So if you could put things in your room that can kind of stop that sound wave from moving, let's say a couch, or a carpet on the floor, a bookcase with books on one side, all of that adds to dampening the sound. And yeah, if you're going to be filming videos regularly, then I would say again, design a set where you've got a consistent look, and then consider building some sound proof panels, which will ultimately deaden the room like perfectly for you.
Okay, thanks. Anybody
Okay.
else has any questions about sound? Because it is so true, right? Like we can stand bad sound. Like, and we have a sound expert here on the call even, and you probably know exactly what we're talking about, right? Like your sound is everything, right? And it doesn't have to be expensive. I think for $100, Stuart, you can probably buy a decent microphone that you can either attach to your phone or to your, if you use an SLR camera or something a little fancier. It doesn't have to cost a lot and makes a huge difference, because we all know that the cameras we buy, especially if you use cameras like Caden, you actually have like a professional setup for this, and I get it, because you're doing a lot of it, right? So these cameras are never designed for sound, right? They're actually designed primarily to make photos, and of course now they've added videos, but they actually want you to buy an additional microphone. And again, what are they called, the ones you put right on the, is it a shotgun mic? Is that the right term?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So if you buy a shotgun microphone, even for $50 to $100, your video production is going to go through the roof. Like, it's going to be much better right from the get-go.
Definitely. So I wouldn't recommend ever using the microphone that's on your camera. I would rather use the microphone on your cell phone, because these mics on the camera are, like Peter said, they're not built for professional audio at all. It's just like a byproduct. It's there if you need it. That's why they have the external inputs, so that you can buy the microphone that you want. Yes, Caden, also, that's made up good point. Be aware that if you are filming outside, that if the wind blows directly onto your microphone, you're going to get that horrible sound. And the problem is you're not going to be aware of it until you watch your video back. So if you are outside, try cover the mic slightly with your hand, or if you're using an external mic, you get something called a wind sock, or a dead cat. It's kind of like a padding for your microphone that kind of softens the wind as it hits the microphone. So moving on, I think we're nearing the end now. It's just some final tips on production, and that is, like, define your sort of your brand and how you want to present yourself, and try to do it as consistently as possible. So that's whether you build a set or film your stuff in the same place every single time, down to what you wear. So like, if you want to portray like something more formal and educational, and you want to wear a suit, or like a semi-formal button up, be aware that in this video you may have done, you may be all formal, but make sure that in the next video you carry that forward, because you don't want to be wearing a t-shirt or a summer shirt in the next video and still trying to give that same level of, call it, financial advice, where there's no consistency of what you look like and where you're filming. Think about also the way you want to portray yourself. Do you want to come across as like a friendly guy, someone that's bubbly, or someone that speaks more slowly and more seriously? But don't 1 week be like full of energy and the next week super subdued, because that's going to mess with your consistency. And same goes for if you're syncing some of your B-roll footage to music, be consistent with that too. If you like, let's say some smooth, like a more smooth, I don't want to say smooth jazz, but like a smoother instrumental sound, to accompany your B-roll footage, don't switch from that to hard rock in your next video, because it's going to confuse the viewers. So just be aware of what you want to portray, and try to do that through every single video.
So do you have any recommendations, like, because there's royalties on the music tracks, right?
Yes.
Like, you can't just take any piece of music and use it in your videos. And I know personally we've got feedback from clients that are tracked down by somebody to say, hey, like, you're using a video track, so there must be some AI that's checking on that stuff. Do you have any recommendations where people can go for video, or maybe even somebody on the call that knows where where to go for that, how to do that?
So for me, because I'm doing it professionally and I'm selling product to clients, I have a subscription with a company called Epidemic Sound. And you pay them every year, and then you buy the license for whatever music you use. But online, there's a lot of royalty-free music available. You just have to Google it. There's even Epidemic Sound will have a royalty-free version. It won't give you access to the full library, but be aware of that. That if you're selling the product to someone, or if you're selling the video to someone, there will be licensing issues if there's money changing hands. If it comes to you just promoting yourself on YouTube, you shouldn't have an issue. Your video will get marked with a copyright claim, and this has happened to me in the past where I've just shared my own videos, but it will clearly say underneath, you don't need to do anything about it. It's only when you're making money on that person's music that you have to be aware of who you're crediting and where you access that music.
I just have a question from the chat. Are the songs in iMovie and CapCut, are they copyright free?
I would assume so, yes. I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert, but I assume if it's on a program like that, even on the app I use, Video Leap, they have access to Epidemic Sound and artist list where they're accessing their free catalog. I assume so.
Yeah, I think generally it's kind of like the big photo library, right? Like we're using Getty Images that has all millions of different, they're all licensed photos, so somebody has copyright on it, but because you're paying this subscription, and as long as you're, the way it works, as long as you have a subscription at the moment that you publish this content, you're covered under their blanket, copyright rights, I guess, to use that piece of information. So, but that's definitely something to think about, right? Because you don't want to do all this work and then get yourself in legal trouble, because that's never fun.
Yeah, definitely. And that kind of on that same vein, if you create a video on Instagram, say if you create a reel, and you're able to add music on that platform, but if you happen to download that video with that music, you cannot repurpose it on another platform. It has to be exclusively used on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah. And Instagram and Facebook will allocate a royalty to that artist. So yeah, like Eddie says, if you take it off, there's no ways for them to allocate that money, and that's where you could find yourself in a position of, hey, you're using music illegally. Okay, so lastly is editing, and I would take time to learn whatever program you've decided to use and stick with it. And it can take time, and it feels like this is not worth the effort, but you will get faster at editing. But yeah, take the time to edit and improve properly. Use captions, because a lot of people are watching videos now on their phones where, let's say they've taken a bathroom break, or at their office just getting distracted a bit, and they don't want to have their phone with the sound on. So if there's captions underneath, they can kind of get the gist of the video of what you're saying, like just by reading it. And again, keep it as short as possible. 25 to 30 seconds. Try to get your point across. If you have to push it, you have to, but that would be my advice.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing those tips. I'm sure some people have some questions or some things that you want to share with the group. This is the time to do that. Does anybody have any additional thoughts or questions about a particular topic that we spoke about this morning?
Just in response to Sally's question, reposting the TikTok videos to Facebook, that is something that is practiced quite frequently. People will post TikTok videos on Instagram or Facebook or vice versa. There are certain limitations just because Instagram, say Instagram and Facebook are owned by the same company, while TikTok is its own entity. So there might be certain audios that are allowed on TikTok that are not necessarily available on Instagram or Facebook.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that. The one platform, while everybody thinks about the question you're going to ask, the one platform that doesn't always get a lot of attention when we talk about social media is in my opinion, YouTube. And of course, it's owned by Google now as well. But what are your thoughts on using YouTube as a social media platform, and then really sharing your information with the world through YouTube, and then from YouTube share it with the different platforms? Is that a good way of doing it, or what would you recommend? Do you have any thoughts around that?
I think that YouTube it's made for videos. So if you want to like your videos to play at the highest quality and look the best, and you want to reach people that actually want to watch videos, it's the perfect place to post. It's just really difficult to build a following on YouTube because most people don't actually have YouTube accounts, or they aren't signed in. So they're just watching it as like an outside viewer. So to get them to subscribe, they have to sign in, create a profile. And that's kind of been the hindrance. That said, like you mentioned earlier, nowadays, if you Google something, you get those videos, YouTube videos right up front, and they've broken it down. 2 minutes and 36 seconds, they answer this question, 5 minutes to answer. So I would say it's a great place to build something. But I'm a video guy, so might be biased in that sense.
Oh, okay, thanks for that. Yeah. So like when it chops up the video, like the YouTube video, does it automatically for you? Because I've seen that too, that they actually try to, tell the viewer, hey, if you're interested in how to, for example, it's a car repair video, how to put the steering wheel back, it's minute 2.15 or something like that. Does it automatically create those things?
Yes, you can actually allocate it yourself and like timestamp certain sections, but nowadays with the YouTube with the captions, it actually works out. AI is working out exactly where each section is. And the algorithm's actually saying, okay, viewers are watching this 30 seconds of this video to get this answer. This is what I need to play for them.
Okay, cool. Anybody else? You can either unmute yourself and ask the question, or you please use the chat box. Either way works.
Just a question in the chat. Is it the same for video as pictures to upload to Google My Business? So I could actually answer that question. So
Okay.
with Google My Business, you are able to upload videos to it. So you can either upload, it's similar to where you would upload photos about your business, about your products, or you can upload video within the post section. So Google My Business has this feature that's very similar to other social media platforms, where you can add posts, whether it's static photos or videos, to it, your profile.
All right.
Yeah, and just another question. Stuart, you had mentioned about the top third of the screen at eye level for headshots. What's the proportions for waist up?
So generally you want to keep it just above the belt line. If you're sort of standing back with your camera, you don't really want to show the belt, the zip, and the waist. And then the same would apply for where your head would then be in the shot. So 4 fingers from the top, and then down just below where the belly button would be.
Well, I have another question about lighting. Like say I don't want to invest in soft boxes. Like a soft box is basically, for the people that may not know the term, is basically a light bulb with some kind of a cloth in front of it, right? Like to diffuse the light. If I just don't really want to bother spending the $100 or something to get those, is there any things that we have around the house or the office that we can use to improve our lighting?
Yeah, definitely. So you can even use your desk lamp, and angle it at you to create that light. Whatever you do with that light, though, again, the same rule applies. Try get it at a slight angle towards your face. Never put it above your head, and never put it directly in front of you, shining in your face. And as a rule of thumb, I say a 45-degree angle. Whether that 45-degree angle is 45 like this way, or 45 like coming from this side or from this side, that will kind of give you the most flattering light around your face. You can also even make a softbox though with diffusion. There's a lot of videos on it on YouTube. So if you used a desktop lamp with a really bright light, you could get a shower curtain, anything that light can shine through, and put it in front of that desk lamp, and that'll create your own softbox.
Okay, cool.
I would actually, on that note, if I was filming in a room where I've got a talking head, I would try and get the source of the light as close to me as possible. So if I've got to choose between a light at the top, like the ceiling light, and a small desk light in front of me, I would rather choose the light right in front of me, because the closer the light source is to you, the softer the light is going to be on you.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Stuart, and thanks for enlightening us on some of these things. I think they were fairly practical. From the chat, I gathered that some of you are actively producing videos for various reasons, so that's great. So hopefully you got a few more tips to apply when you're done this call, and actually think about that. I always go like, if there's one thing you remember of this last 45 minutes, that's probably a win, right? Like we can't teach you to be a professional photographer or video person in 45 minutes, but these little tips really help to become better at it, because let's face it, your clients are looking for video. And if you want to build relationships with clients and reach out to more clients, video is definitely something that should be on your radar. And we all know it, but it sometimes takes, for myself, for example, I have to kind of get over myself. I don't necessarily like seeing myself in video. I'm not sure, by the raising of hands, is there anybody else in the room that feels the same way? Exactly, right? Like we need to kind of get over ourselves. But once you get to that point and actually you start doing these things, it'll go quicker, and you're going to be less critical of yourself. You go like, well, this is good enough. Like it's an announcement for a webinar next week. The shelf life is only like days, right? So your audience is going to look at these things differently, and they appreciate you making information available in video format. I'm not saying that the other formats don't matter anymore. It's more or less, if you, for example, if you write blogs or you create content, think about next time, hey, can I do the same content, the same idea? So not reinventing the wheel. How can I actually present this in video format in addition to the other kinds of content? Because we still need written content as well, right? For various reasons. Yeah, so again, thanks for stopping by, everybody. I see some people need to go, and I totally get it. So we'll stay on here for a few more minutes for sure to answer any other questions that you may have. But you will get a copy of the recording and the slides. So in any time you can go back to that. And if there's anything else, do we have a final slide with some contact information, Katie? Or you? I'm sure you know where to find us. And for Stuart, like you can find him on Stuart. What is the website that people can?
StuartReese.ca. Everything's there, from my portfolio to my contact details.
Brilliant, right? So make sure to check that out as well. He's he's a local, and he's very good at what he does. And he let's face it, you can always help somebody else, right? Okay, well, thanks again, I see people checking out. So we'll stay here on for a few more minutes. It's not quite the top of the hour yet. So again, thanks. And thank you, Stuart, for being part of this today.
It's my pleasure. And thank you everyone for joining in. If you have any questions, you can also feel free to email me or pick my brain. Like I'm really and I mean this when I say it, I'm like proud to be a part of this community, and I'm a small business owner, and yeah, I want to get involved as much as I can.
No, for sure. You've been a great addition to Lacombe, Stuart. And Central Alberta, I should say.
Yes, thank you guys.